RCA Records Vault, Nashville, March 1978. 8 months after Elvis Presley's death, archivists are cataloging the King's massive recording legacy when they make a discovery that stops them in their tracks. Hidden in a filing cabinet marked Miscellaneous, Do Not Release, are master tapes of 7 Elvis recordings that nobody remembers existing. Songs so extraordinary, so musically adventurous, so completely different from the Elvis the world knew, that they seem to have been recorded by a different person entirely. As the archivists play these forgotten tracks, they realize they're listening to some of the most sophisticated, emotionally powerful, and artistically innovative music Elvis ever created. Songs that could have redefined his legacy, expanded his artistic reputation, and changed the course of popular music history. But these masterpieces were never released, never promoted, never even acknowledged by Elvis's management or record label. Someone had decided that these 7 songs were too dangerous, too different, too revelatory of Elvis's true artistic range to be shared with the world. They had been deliberately buried, hidden away like musical contraband that threatened the carefully constructed image of the king of rock and roll. This is the story of the 7 Elvis songs that time forgot, the shocking reasons they were suppressed, and the musical genius they reveal. A genius so profound that it had to be hidden to protect the Elvis brand that made millions of dollars by keeping the king safely contained within commercial expectations. These aren't B-sides or throwaway recordings. These are masterpieces that could have shown the world an Elvis Presley they never imagined existed. Song number 1, Midnight Confessions, the jazz masterpiece. The first forgotten track is perhaps the most shocking of all. Recorded in a secret late-night session at American Sound Studio in February 1969, Midnight Confessions reveals Elvis as a sophisticated jazz vocalist capable of rivaling the greatest singers in American music history. The song opens with Elvis's voice, unaccompanied and vulnerable, delivering lyrics about regret and redemption with a phrasing sophistication that echoes Billie Holiday and Frank Sinatra at their most emotionally direct. When the sparse jazz ensemble joins, upright bass, brushed drums, muted trumpet, Elvis's vocal performance becomes something magical. This isn't the Elvis of Hound Dog or Love Me Tender. This is Elvis as a mature artist exploring the darkest corners of human experience through music that demands to be taken seriously. His vocal control is flawless, his emotional understanding profound, his jazz phrasing impeccable. But when Elvis's management heard the recording, their reaction was immediate and harsh. This doesn't sound like Elvis. Nobody will buy jazz from the king of rock and roll. Lock it up. The song that could have established Elvis as one of the great American jazz vocalists was buried forever, deemed too artistically challenging for his commercial image. Song number 2, Prairie Wind, the folk revelation. Even more surprising than Elvis's jazz masterpiece is Prairie Wind, a haunting folk ballad recorded during the same secret sessions that produced some of his most intimate work. Elvis performs the song alone with acoustic guitar, his voice stripped of all production effects and artificial enhancement. What emerges is a performance of devastating honesty and vulnerability. Elvis as a storyteller in the tradition of Woody Guthrie and Bob Dylan, weaving a narrative about loneliness and searching that seems drawn from his own deepest experiences. The guitar work is sophisticated and subtle, proving that Elvis's instrumental abilities extended far beyond the basic strumming he displayed in public. The finger-picking patterns and harmonic progressions suggest hours of private practice and musical development that the world never witnessed. But perhaps most remarkable is Elvis's vocal approach. Gone is the trademark vibrato and power that defined his commercial sound. Instead, he sings with the direct simplicity of the greatest folk artists. letting the story and emotion carry the performance rather than vocal gymnastics. Prairie Wind lasts 7 minutes, an eternity in commercial pop music. But every second is necessary to tell the complete story Elvis is sharing. It's the kind of song that establishes an artist as a serious musical poet, not just an entertainer. The record label's response was predictable. Folk music is dead commercially. Elvis sings rock and roll, not protest songs. File it away. Song number 3. Classical Dreams, the orchestral surprise. Perhaps the most shocking discovery in the vault is Classical Dreams, a recording that reveals Elvis's secret ambition to create serious classical music. Working with a small string ensemble and piano, Elvis composed and performed an original piece that draws on classical traditions while maintaining his unique, emotional voice. The song demonstrates his understanding of classical structure, harmonic development, and orchestral arrangement. Skills that nobody knew he possessed. Elvis's vocal performance treats his voice like another instrument in the ensemble, weaving in and out of the string parts with precision and sensitivity that would impress conservatory professors. The piece builds from intimate whispers to soaring climaxes with a structural sophistication that reveals Elvis as not just a performer, but a serious composer. The lyrics, written entirely by Elvis, explore themes of artistic aspiration and the conflict between commercial success and artistic fulfillment. It's deeply personal material that seems to address his own struggles with being trapped in a commercial image that limits his creative expression. But the classical approach made record executives nervous. Elvis fans don't want to hear violins and high-minded lyrics. This sounds like opera. Never release this. Song number 4. Gospel Roots, the spiritual revelation. While Elvis's gospel recordings are well known, Gospel Roots represents something entirely different. A deeply personal spiritual confession that goes far beyond traditional gospel entertainment. Recorded with a single piano, Elvis delivers what amounts to a musical sermon about faith, doubt, and the search for meaning. His vocal performance is raw and unpolished, filled with the kind of authentic emotion that can't be manufactured or rehearsed. The song includes spoken passages where Elvis addresses God directly, sharing fears and hopes that reveal the profound spiritual struggle beneath his public persona. It's intensely personal material that makes the listener feel like they're witnessing a private moment between Elvis and his faith. The musical arrangement is sparse, but perfect. Piano chords that support rather than compete with Elvis's voice, creating space for the emotional weight of his confession to fill the room. But the intimacy that makes the song powerful also made it commercially impossible. This is too personal. Elvis fans want entertainment, not therapy sessions. Keep this private. Song R5. Rock Rebellion, the Punk Prophecy. Years before punk rock existed as a musical movement, Elvis recorded Rock Rebellion, a raw, aggressive song that predicted the anger and energy that would define punk music in the 1970s. The recording is deliberately rough and unpolished. Elvis's voice is harsh and confrontational, backed by distorted guitars and pounding drums that create a wall of sound unlike anything else in his catalog. The lyrics attack the music industry, commercial conformity, and the pressure to maintain a safe public image. They want me to smile and wave, Elvis snarls over the driving rhythm. But the music in my heart ain't pretty and safe. The song is a direct rebellion against the Elvis brand, a raw expression of frustration with being trapped in a commercial image that limits his artistic freedom. It's angry, honest, and musically revolutionary. Punk rock before punk rock had a name. But its revolutionary nature made it impossible to release. This sounds like noise, not music. Elvis is supposed to be wholesome entertainment, not angry rebellion. Song number 6. Instrumental Symphony. The multi-instrumental masterpiece. The vault's most technically impressive discovery is Instrumental Symphony, a complex composition where Elvis plays every instrument: piano, guitar, bass, drums, harmonica, and violin, creating a layered masterpiece that showcases his hidden musical abilities. The piece demonstrates that Elvis was not just a vocalist, but a complete musician capable of sophisticated arrangement and performance across multiple instruments. Each instrumental part is expertly played, with Elvis moving between instruments to create harmonies and rhythms that build into a complex musical architecture. The composition itself reveals Elvis as a serious musical thinker, capable of developing themes and variations with classical sophistication while maintaining the emotional directness that made his vocal performances so powerful. But the revelation of Elvis as a multi-instrumentalist threatened the carefully constructed narrative of the humble guitar-playing singer. If people know Elvis can play all these instruments, it changes his whole image. Better to keep this quiet. Song number 7. Future Sound. The electronic experiment. The most surprising discovery is Future Sound, an experimental recording that finds Elvis exploring electronic music production decades before it became mainstream. Using early synthesizers and electronic effects, Elvis created a soundscape that sounds like it could have been recorded in the 1980s or 1990s. His voice is processed through various electronic filters, creating textures and atmospheres that were completely innovative for the time. The song's lyrics address themes of technological change and human connection in an increasingly artificial world, prophetic themes that wouldn't become common in popular music for another decade. But the futuristic approach was too far ahead of its time. Nobody understands this electronic stuff. Elvis should stick to what people know. The suppression conspiracy. The reason these 7 masterpieces were buried reveals a disturbing truth about the music industry's treatment of artistic genius. Colonel Tom Parker and RCA executives had created a profitable Elvis brand based on a limited image: the guitar-playing rock and roll rebel with a safe edge and broad commercial appeal. These 7 songs threatened that brand by revealing Elvis as a complete artist capable of serious work in multiple genres. They showed a musical sophistication and emotional depth that elevated him from entertainer to artist, a transformation that actually threatened his commercial value. Elvis the artist is less profitable than Elvis the entertainer, one internal RCA memo explained. These recordings are too sophisticated for his fan base and too different from his established sound. Commercial risk high, artistic merit irrelevant. The conspiracy to suppress Elvis's artistic range extended beyond just these 7 songs. The vault discovery revealed hundreds of recordings that had been classified as too artistic or commercially risky. Elvis had been creating serious, innovative music throughout his career, but almost none of it was ever allowed to reach the public. The tragic legacy. The suppression of these recordings represents one of the greatest artistic tragedies in American music history. Elvis Presley was not just the king of rock and roll. He was a musical genius, capable of masterful work in every genre he explored. But his genius was systematically hidden from the world to protect commercial interests that valued profit over artistic development. The Elvis the world knew and loved was just a small fraction of the Elvis who actually existed in recording studios, exploring musical territories that his management deemed too dangerous to reveal. These 7 forgotten songs prove that Elvis could have been recognized as one of the great American artists in any musical genre he chose to pursue. Instead, he was trapped in a commercial image that made him famous while hiding his true artistic capabilities. The world mourned the death of Elvis Presley the entertainer. But these recordings reveal that we also lost Elvis Presley, the jazz vocalist, the folk poet, the classical composer, the spiritual confessor, the punk rocker, the multi-instrumentalist, and the electronic music pioneer. We didn't just lose the king of rock and roll. We lost one of the most complete musical artists who ever lived, whose true range was hidden from us by an industry more interested in profit than artistic truth. Today, these 7 songs, Day, remain largely unknown, even among Elvis fans. The conspiracy to suppress Elvis's artistic range was so successful that most people still think of him as just a rock and roll singer, not the musical polymath that these recordings reveal him to be. The greatest tragedy isn't that Elvis died young. The greatest tragedy is that most of his musical genius died with him, hidden in vaults and marked "Do Not Release," never allowed to show the world the full scope of what human artistic potential can achieve. These 7 songs represent the Elvis that could have been, should have been, and was, but only in the privacy of recording studios where his true voice was captured and then locked away forever. The king of rock and roll was also the king of hidden masterpieces, and most of his kingdom remains unexplored territory, waiting for someone brave enough to unlock the vaults and share the musical treasures that the world never knew existed. Sometimes the most profound artists are the ones whose greatest work never sees the light of day, not because it wasn't good enough, but because it was too good, too honest, too revolutionary for a world that preferred their genius safely contained within commercial expectations. Elvis Presley was that kind of artist, and these 7 forgotten songs are proof that sometimes the most important music is the music that never gets played.